We're going to do something that you'll never get in a Joe Achilles video. Is this a price worth paying for the lack of precision on these roads? Hello and welcome back to the VolksWizard channel. Now, it's not every day I get to drive a model of performance Volkswagen for the very first time, but that's what we're going to do today, because this video is a full review of the car you probably never knew existed, the Mk6 Golf R Cabriolet. Yet back in 2013, Volkswagen finished off their pretty extensive Cabriolet range with an R version of the Golf. Now, it's got a lot in common with the tin top version, but it does miss one very important piece of the Golf R recipe that we shall talk about later. So in today's video, we're going to have a look around the outside, the inside, we're going to go for a drive, and we're going to start off with some vital statistics to see how the Golf 6 R Cabriolet stacks up on paper. But before we get started, let me just remind you guys to support the channel. The easiest way you can do that is to subscribe. Big thanks to each one of the 68,500 current subscribers, and even bigger thanks to those of you who have sold me your cars over the last few months since VolksWizard was relaunched. I can't tell you how important that is, particularly for the longevity of this channel. So if you have got an interesting performance Volkswagen that's got a full service history, completely unmodified, really good condition and average mileage or below, then get in touch directly with me by email, andrew@volkswizard.co.uk. Okay, let's start off then with some fast facts on the Golf 6 R Cabriolet. As I said earlier, it was launched in 2013, so you'd be forgiven for thinking it was based on the Mk7 Golf, but no, it was definitely based on the Mk6. And the reason that was possible was because it was built in a different factory to the tin top Golf. It was actually built in the old Carman factory in Osnabrück. At the same time, Wolfsburg had already started building the Mk7 Golf hatchbacks. It was launched in the south of France in February 2013. That was about a year after Volkswagen had launched the Mk6 Golf GTI Cabriolet, another model not many people know exists. It's still a rare sight on UK roads, but probably not as rare as this car, mainly because it was a bit cheaper, but also because it was on sale for nearly a year longer. The Scirocco R and the Golf R Cabriolet both have got 265 versions of the EA113 engine, as opposed to the 270 horsepower versions that we got in the Golf R hatch. But all three have got a max torque of 350 newton meters that's produced from 2,500 to 5,000 RPM, and all three are limited to a top speed of 155 miles per hour. But there is quite a bit of a difference when it comes to 0 to 60 time, and that's mainly because, just like the Scirocco R, this Golf R Cabriolet is front wheel drive only. So yeah, you heard me right. We have a Golf R here that is not four-wheel drive. So yeah, it's about a second slower to 60, according to Volkswagen Drive magazine, than the all-wheel drive Golf R hatchback at 6.3 seconds. And that's kind of understandable, but it's disappointing that it's 0.4 of a second slower than the Scirocco R, which has got the same power and is also front-wheel drive. But that's because, according to Volkswagen driver stats, the Golf R Cabriolet is a whole 250 kilograms heavier than the Scirocco R. And that's even weirder because a three-door manual Golf R is only about 100 kilograms lighter than the Golf R Cabriolet. Fuel consumption, never really that good with these old EA113 engines, but officially it would do a combined cycle 34.4 miles per gallon and emit 190 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, this engine goes back to the Mark V Golf GTI of 2004. It's not the EA888 engine that first saw the light in the Mk6 Golf GTI, because the Mk6 Golf R continued to use the old EA113. Let's just talk about the size then. So the Golf R Cabriolet is a little bit longer than the Golf hatch. It's a little bit wider, but just 3 mil, so hardly any difference. It's a little bit lower, which is why I think it looks so good. It's got a very low roof line. It's a whole 6 centimetres lower than the Golf R hatch. Wheelbase though, the gap between the wheels is exactly the same, 2.578 mil. Boot space though is quite a bit smaller. So the Golf R hatch was 350 litres. The Cabriolet just 250. You can though fold the seats down to make it a little bit more practical, but you're always going to have the rear bulkhead in the way, so you're not going to get big boxes into the boot of this car. But it's important to compare it with the Volkswagen EOS because that had a metal folding roof, was on sale at the same time, and if you put the roof down in that, you had hardly any boot space. This actually has the same boot space whether the roof is up or down. Okay, now let's have a look around the outside of this Mk6 Golf R Cabriolet, and I'll start off by saying I think it's got one of the most aggressive and best looking fronts of any performance Golf, and way better than the 7R that was out a few months later with its bits of silver metal, although the 7.5R did address that. So we've got the big air intakes in the bumper. They're all working apart from the one on the left hand side which is filled in. We have got a black grille, which generally body colour looks better than black, but this is gloss black, and it works with the gloss black in the bumper grills and also the black headlights. Now I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, if you had a Mk6 Golf R hatch and you had the 19-inch wheels, you got the black headlights. So in other markets you could get these cars on 18s. I don't know if they came with the black headlights, but whatever. On this silver car I think it looks stunning. Let's quickly talk about colours. 4 were available. Pure white was the free colour, and you had reflex silver. On this car you had deep black, and you had the signature colour of rising blue. Optional colours were about £535. For me today, this has got to be the colour because it wears pretty well and it looks really, really smart, particularly with a silver wheel. So these are 19-inch Talladegas, exactly the same style as those you got in the 18-inch size as well, but they weren't available for the UK market. So over here we got 19s only. Elsewhere they were an optional extra. Ride quality wise, you're probably better off with 18s, particularly on an open top car, but we'll talk about that later. Unusually for a VW, you could order black wheels, which was a big thing back then, which reminds me, also a big thing was having LED daytime running lights in the front bumper. They look a bit clunky now, but trust me, back in 2013 they were the thing to have. This car's on 235 3519 Pirellis, but bearing in mind it's front wheel drive, it does need a good tyre, so they're a little bit wider than you get on the 18s. That I guess helps with the traction. Brakes are pretty impressive as well. So these 345mm discs are the biggest discs we had on a performance Golf until Mark 8 came out, Club Sport or R, with its 357 discs. They are one piece though, which means they are quite heavy. That's why two-piece brake discs have become the norm at the top of the range. Now we've got big calipers with the R logo on them. And also we've got gloss black mirror casings, which are an R thing. This silver trim around the bottom of the windows looks a bit incongruous on a car with all these black bits, but I think it looks okay. It looks really smart. We've got the sill extension, which is standard on Golf 6R. At the back, we've got good discs as well, so 310 and vented. With a normal parking brake, by the way, this car hasn't got an electric parking brake like the Mark 7s do. At the back, we've got the LED lights, which again were like catnip back in 2013. We have got obviously a reprofiled boot because it's a Cabriolet. It still opens with a Volkswagen badge. It's got the third brake light built into it there. Another big difference with the Golf R hatch is that we do not have the twin pipes in the middle of the diffuser. We've got these ones on the outside, and that might be familiar to you, this setup, because it's pretty much the same as that on the Scirocco R, which is also front wheel drive, as I mentioned earlier. Apparently the strengthening needed to the body shell meant that there wasn't enough room to run the exhaust down the centre of the car. But yeah, whatever, it still looks really, really good. Okay, now let's have a look around the inside of this Golf R Cabriolet. And I do feel like this is a much nicer cabin quality-wise than you got with the Mark 7s. So let's have a look at the door card then. So we've got this sort of fake leather on the elbow rest and here as well. We've got chrome tips on the window switches, looks nice. Electric folding mirrors. Nice feeling door handle. We've got this metal trim here, a little bit scratched on this car. That feels expensive as well. This plastic quality is nice. Speakers nice, flock line door bins, really nice deep flocking. Looks great. We have got sill protectors, which I think are actually going to be fitted to the Edition 50. I think that's the first on a Golf for a very long time. Floor mats are nice with a silver edge to them, which was the Golf R thing, actually then. That's why we've got the stitching in silver there. Carpet quality is a lot better than we got in the Mark 7, so you can see it's got some texture to it. I've cleaned this car thoroughly, and this carpet is, yeah, definitely a couple of grades above. Stainless pedals, which you'd expect. Stowage down here, just like on a Mark 7. Auto lights. The inlay continues right across the dash. And the seats, well, they're not particularly racy, but Vienna leather was standard. It was an expensive option on other Golfs, and it's got the contrast stitch in silver. It's got lumbar adjustment there. Okay, let's get inside and have a closer look. We have got a very nice steering wheel. Obviously traditional buttons, but it feels a little bit more expensive than the one in the Mark 7s. Our logo down there, perforations down here, paddles as well, so there's no option for a manual, so they've all got these flappy paddles, but you can shift with the shifter in a Tiptronic way as well. This car's got the cheaper of the two nav upgrades. As standard, you got the RCD 310. This is an RNS 315, I think, so it's the CD DVD player and a navigation system, and it's pretty good. It's touchscreen, so it's better than some. Well, it's better than the one in the 2014 Audi R8. I can tell you. Down here we've got some stowage, an ashtray, a cigarette lighter still, and we've got the switch for turning on and off the parking sensors, traction control on and off there. We've got this covered cup holder here with the bottle opener that also allows you to adjust the size of the cup holder bits. Very clever, very nice touch that. Centre armrest, fake leather with a contrast stitch. In here we have, well, Audi called it the Audi Music Interface. So gosh, this is pre USB in your car. You had to buy these cables that connected here, and this is an old iPod one. So yeah, it's better than the Mark 5 when it comes to connectivity. It's not brilliant. We do have standard Bluetooth, which does help a lot, I guess, but there's no Apple CarPlay or anything like that. Traditional handbrake with contrast stitch, nice leather cover on that. Glove box, flock lined, and it's got a chunky book pack still. It's actually cooled, so the air conditioning system can run through it if you open up knob there. Got the Golf R logo on this inlay as well. Yeah, and this car's 12 years old. It's worn really, really well. Now I just thought I'd show you how much space there is in the back, because the Golf 6 R Cabriolet has the longest cabin in its class, so it should be pretty commodious. I think the seat's in my driving position. Maybe I can go a little bit further forward, maybe a little bit back. Okay, I'm 6 foot tall, so I'm not massive. Let's see what it's like. Now importantly, we have the easy entry seats, which means as well as doing that, they do that, and without that it would be really hard to get in. This is obviously easier with no roof, but I don't think that's essential. So we'll slide the seat back, it remembers where it was, hopefully. And yeah. It's a bit tight in that, and the backrest is quite upright as well, because we've got the hood that sits behind me there. So yeah, it's all right. I guess if you're coming back from a pub, not ideal for adults. If you're doing a long journey right now, let's have a look in that boot. So it's 100 litres down on the hatchback. And obviously not as practical because you've got all this in the way, so you can't put a big box in here. And yes, the seats fold down, but there's only quite a narrow opening there, but that does help with practicality for sure. You've got to store your wind deflector as well, but you do have a spare wheel, which is a luxury, I guess, compared to a modern Golf. That's nice to have, particularly those big wheels that are probably quite prone to punctures. You can fold the seats down or release them with this lever here, and you've got your curry hook in there as well, the very important curry hook. 12 volt charging in there. Just worth pointing out the hood. So this just folds down really quickly and tidily. It doesn't need a tonneau cover, and it's really simple in its operation. That's really, really good, because it just makes you want to use it more when it's that simple. Okay, now let's have a look under the bonnet of this Mk6 Golf R Cabriolet. As usual, we have a sound insulating pad that doesn't sit properly, which carries on to the Mark 7. But yeah, under here it's pretty much the same as the R hatch. So EA113, 265 horsepower, and yeah, it's a cam belt engine. They need doing, well, it used to be every 5 years. That's changed now, so probably every 80 or so, 80,000 miles. It's worth doing it. Not so important when it comes to time. But yeah, it's a pretty reliable engine, and the 6-speed DSG is not too bad either, but it does need regular oil changes. Okay, so that's the Mk6 Golf R Cabriolet. It looks like a Golf R. You have the benefit of wind in your hair motoring as well. As a fan of the Golf R and as a fan of cabriolets, it could be my perfect car. Well, let's find out. Let's go and drive the Golf 6 R Cabriolet. Well, here we are in the Mk6 Golf R, and if you've watched some of my early videos, say around 2018, 2019, when I did videos on the Mk6 Golf R, and I said I preferred it to the Mark 7 Golf R, you'll know that I'm super happy to be at last driving in this car, because for me, the Mark 6 Golf was the last really good quality Golf. 7.5 are good, but they have so many quality issues, and these were pretty bomb-proof, and that's represented by this car today. It's done 58,000 miles, and I really cannot fault the interior. If it had the R&S 510 with the even bigger navigation screen, it would still look pretty up-to-date. We've got pretty modern climate control interface here. Okay, let's do the Cabriolet test first, and then we'll talk about sort of the performance driving. Golf 6 Cabriolet is a really, really good one. The hood is like multi-layered and it's really insulating, which is important. So this is a nice car to drive all year round. I think being an R with its R bits, it feels special. Some convertibles you need to drive with the roof down to feel like you're in something special, like say a basic Golf convertible. You know, it might feel a bit boring unless you put the roof down. Got the blue needles do their sweep. We use a normal key, foot on the brake. There's no manual option, by the way. They're all 6-speed DSG, which is fine by me. It suits the character of the car. Let's, I think, put the roof down, because that's what this car's all about. Now, there's a button here in the center console. It seems counterintuitive to push it down to put the roof down. I suppose it sounds right, doesn't it? On other ones, you push it this way and it goes up, because you're kind of doing that with the roof when you put it up. Anyway, I will press it this way. It goes down, hopefully. It's a real simple mechanism. There's no like bits lifting up like there are on sort of R8 Spiders and stuff like that. It just goes back. That's it. The windows go up. If you want to put all the windows down, there's a little switch in the middle that you can use for that. Now, I don't actually remember this from the original press information or the reviews, but this car will remember your climate control settings for when the roof is up and for when the roof is down. So say you don't like to have the aircon on when you've got the roof down, it'll turn it off, and then when you put the roof back up, it'll put the aircon back on and remember the temperatures you have set. I've seen that in Audis like a long time ago, but I still think it's really cool. This car has got it. Let's put the wind deflector up. There we go. Now that's quite important, because it makes this cabin pretty much completely wind-free when you're driving, so I shall demonstrate now. But yeah, it's a very pleasant car to just drive around in normally, this with the roof down on a nice day. Of course, with your sunglasses on. I'll pretend it's sunny and put my sunglasses on just to get into the sort of mood with a convertible. Now, what's really interesting about this car is that the throttle is really sort of not very sensitive in this mode. It's almost like a traction control system. They actually used to say this about TVRs that didn't have traction control, that they made the throttle really sort of unresponsive to stop people killing themselves, or as often happened on crashing on test drives. So you can just trickle along really, really smoothly and calmly. And if you want it to wake up, you've really got to put it in sport mode. So now it revs a bit higher, it feels a lot keener, but actually, you know, when you're not in the mood, normal mode is lovely. It's just calm, and it uses that torque which is there from 2,500 to 5,000 RPM. Okay, now we're going to do something that you'll never get in a Joe Achilles video. I can demonstrate how little buffeting there is to my hair in a convertible. So there we go, let's get up to the speed limit of 50 miles an hour. Very little buffeting, so if that is important to you, then the Golf Cabriolet is a great car. The brakes, as I mentioned earlier, are superb. So 345mm disc, perfectly fine for the road. Has anybody ever track dayed a Golf R convertible? That would be quite interesting to experience. But the slight issue with this car is that there is a degree of scuttle shake. So it doesn't have the torsional rigidity you get with the hatchback, and as a result, it doesn't feel as composed. But the question is, does the fact you have the roof down and the wind in your hair, or not in your hair as the case may be, does that make up for the fact that it's not as sharp as the tin top? Well, we shall find out now on a better road than this. Okay, we're on my favourite test route, and I think now I'll select sport mode and just remind you what we've got under the bonnet. So 265 horsepower, front wheel drive only. Now if you think about it, Mk6 Golf 220 didn't have a VAQ diff, but 230 horsepower did. Well, we've got 35 horsepower more than that GTI, and we don't have the VAQ diff. So traction, particularly from a standing start, isn't brilliant, but once you get going, it's fine. And we do have XDS, which is a cleverer version of electronic differential lock. EDL would just stop a wheel spinning once it had already started spinning, while XDS is a little bit cleverer, it preempts it. It can feel a little bit weird when you go around a corner, like something's kind of getting between you and the steering. And if you do happen to misjudge that corner and XDS can't sort it out for you, well, the good news is, even though we don't have the pram handle that we've had in every other Golf convertible, Mark 1, Mark 3, 3.5, this is a very safe car because it has pyrotechnic rollover bars that pop out behind the rear headrest when the car goes beyond a certain amount of tilt or roll. It's nice to know that, really, because you do feel a bit exposed in these cars. When it's smooth, this car feels really, really nice to drive, and there are little glimmers of the magic you'd get from a Mark 5 Golf, a GTI, unless you hit bumps, of which, you know, there are plenty on our British B roads. But yeah, there is some magic there. A road test from 2013 said it was more enjoyable to drive than the TTRS, which might sound a bit surprising, but actually the TTRS Mark II was a little bit wooden to drive. The Mark 5 Golf GTI would have been a much more rewarding car for a keen driver. This is closer to the Mark 5 GTI than is a TTRS. Brakes, as I said before, are lovely progressive. There's not that artificial over-servoed feel because it's a slightly older car, even though it does have hydraulic brake assist. Sound-wise, well, I think the EA113 is not a bad sounding engine, but this, unlike say a Mark 5 GTI, has been augmented with that horror of fake noise, but it's not too bad. It's not as bad as the Mark 7R one, that's for sure. And because the emissions people haven't been at the exhaust, it does sound pretty good. We've got full fat DSG farts, which sound really cool. So yeah, it's not as evocative like a TTRS 5-cylinder or, you know, an R32, but it's still a pleasant sounding, relatively natural sounding car. It's definitely softer though than you might think in the suspension. It's definitely not as sharp as a Mark 5 Golf GTI or R hatch, but it still tracks really well. It's just when it hits mid-corner bumps, it sort of loses its composure because of all this. Is this a price worth paying for the lack of precision on these roads? Well, that depends how you drive. I think for me it's a bit borderline. I prefer two-seater convertibles because they don't have the longest cabin in their class. The bulkheads are much closer, therefore they're a little bit more rigid, but it's still bloody good, and it's lovely to have the fresh air. And in the winter, because it's not so blowy in here, put the heated seats on, put your woolly hat on if you must. You'll still enjoy some amazing drives. So guys, there we have the Mk6 Golf R Cabriolet, the performance Golf you probably never knew existed, and now you know it exists. You're probably not that bothered that it does. It's definitely not the sharpest Golf to drive, but I think it'll always be the fastest Golf you can put the roof down on, and in my books that makes it really rather cool. It's also a super rare car, probably the rarest performance Volkswagen, definitely of the modern era, which is never a bad thing. And whilst there was a lot of chat about how much they cost when they were brand new, on the second-hand market, I'm pleased to report they make a lot more sense, particularly if you compare them to the cost of a Mk7 Golf R. So this 2013, which admittedly is about a year older than the oldest Mk7 Golf R, with 58,000 miles on the clock, in fantastic condition, full service history, and a nice spec, could be yours if you buy it from me, because it's actually for sale with me right now for just £12,000. If you look at what 12 grand buys you when it comes to Mk7 Golf Rs, it'll probably be a ratty high miler, missing a lot of the spec of this car. But if you can't find one of these for sale, then don't forget the Mk6 Golf GTI Cabriolet. It's pretty much the same car. It's a little bit slow, but I don't think you'll notice, and there's probably a few more of those on the market. As ever guys, thanks for watching this volkswizard video. Keep subscribing, keep commenting, keep offering me your cars for sale as well. There'll be a lot more videos coming soon, such as one on my recently acquired 151,000 mile daily driver, which I think might be of interest to you guys. I'm still waiting for some information on the Golf GTI Edition 50, because I didn't feel the press releases and all the media coverage that surrounded the release of that car a few weeks ago actually told us what we want to know, such as, is one without the performance pack just a Golf GTI Club Sport with a bit more power and some different trim? And there's lots of other videos coming along soon as well.